and good evening and welcome to the Manchester is Blue show. We've got two of the Discord lads tonight. How we doing, boys? We okay? We got Addy and Cloud.
Hello.
Doing great, doing great.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. You talked a lot of sense last time. You probably talked more sense than me, so I thought it's well worth getting you back on and having another chat to you because City came within very close minutes of being knocked out of the FA Cup this weekend against a very resilient and a very well organised Cheltenham side. And I don't know if you two watched the match. Addy, did you manage to watch it?
Yeah, I did.
It was pretty
very
impressive.
gritty, I'd say.
Yeah. From that point of view, Cloud, what's your thoughts on the match, pal?
It was one of those really strange matches. I mean, when I watched it, I said to some of the guys that I said it's almost like being in an episode of The Twilight Zone because the players you expected to really perform in the match, like Torres playing that sort of KDB position, Foden out on the left, they seemed to struggle for the majority of the game. And then a lot of players who have struggled recently really showed up, like Mahrez. Okay, he missed some chances he should have put away, but he was very creative. He was very on the front foot. Was it Doyle who was playing in the midfield? I think?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Some of his movement was really just. It showed so much experience for someone of his age.
I'm so glad you mentioned
intelligent.
Doyle. Yeah, because one thing I wanted to mention tonight, I'm glad you mentioned Doyle because I nearly forgot, was his passing and his crossing ability is fantastic. I was really pleasantly surprised, and one of the other admins into our group watches the academy a lot, and he said that's something he does week in week out. He can ping the ball. There's no question about that. So that was really nice to see, and it's just a shame we had to drag Howard Bellis and Doyle off to make the substitutions to make a difference towards the end, really. But you can kind of see we needed that extra bit of oomph, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we should have started our regular players instead of. I mean, it's good to put in youth players, but in a game like this where you were going down, it's better to be safe than sorry, like we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad always says, you gotta play your strongest team first, get the game won, and then you can start making what substitutions you want. And one thing we've got on our list to talk about tonight is Cancelo's involvement at City. And the ever-changing formations because he crossed the ball in for Foden. Was it Foden's the first goal for City that he
I believe so. Yeah.
He's what a game changer. He's really coming into his own at the moment. Cloud, what's your thoughts on his progression and the ever-changing formation of where he fits into?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought him up because I was thinking about this after the last podcast. But in the last podcast, you asked us. You said, "Does anyone here think that Walker isn't the best fullback at the club?" And if you actually watch it back, not all the viewers might, but if you watch it back, you'll see in my face, and I want to say something, but I think it's dangerous to buy into the hype too early on some players. And I wanted to refrain from doing that. But he's been absolutely sensational. And when he came on against Cheltenham, when I saw him come on, it was the first time I got that feeling, but he gave me that KDB or Aguero type vibe when he came on. And what he does so brilliantly is he will come into the formation as back four, but he can come inside into midfield and he helps us overload that midfield where we don't need to use a false nine. And if someone tries to press him down in the midfield, he can just go on the outside. And then he's dragging multiple players against him. You can't just have one player mark Cancelo just because of where he's moving on the pitch. He can go inside, he can go outside, he can play on the left, he can cross, he can through ball. His link-up play is absolutely extraordinary and his consistency. Considering this time last year, there were rumours about a swap deal with Semedo with Barcelona. Now he's one of the stars of the club, it seems like.
It's bonkers. Addy, what's your interpretation on it?
I think he just has the potential to be one of the best players at the club. Other than that, I think he did make a difference.
Yeah, he really did for me. And with KDB being off for the next couple of weeks, which we're going to talk about later, is there any possibility of him playing in that KDB position? Because he can obviously pass, he can obviously run, tackle, defend. He's obviously good at passing the ball forward as well. Do you two think there's some possibility of actually playing him in midfield rather than the inverted wing back?
I'd say I don't have my money on it because KDB is such an essential part of City's attacking and midfield role. Him being out, as you saw yesterday, was clearly a big like blow to the team. You couldn't. That's why we didn't get as many chances until late in the game.
Does it worry?
Yeah.
Does it worry you a little bit after watching the Cheltenham game with no KDB that we might struggle to make the chances?
Yeah, I guess, but like I'm sure the team has now realized that they can't rely on one player. They have to work as a functioning team together. And I think we'll see like tomorrow they'll improve because they can't rely on one player like I said. It's all about progressing forward and like making a difference on your own. Yeah.
Cloud, can I ask you about your thoughts on Laporte coming back in and his absence, and obviously Ake's absence? How do you think Laporte did in the position?
I think he did fine. I think he did absolutely fine. He needs to get back into rhythm, which is really hard just because of what's happening with John Stones and Diaz and their partnership. It's almost like a bromance. They just seem to love playing with each other, and it's so hard to split them up. And it's really hard to prove to the manager and say, I deserve to be here, when the two guys in front of you aren't conceding any goals. And I know people say they've conceded, is it one goal together,
Yeah.
Stones and Diaz?
Yeah, bonkers.
That one goal, though, was when it was against Chelsea and they had Stefan in goal. So with Diaz, Stones and Ederson, we haven't conceded anything. So it's so hard for Laporte to try and prove. And whenever he comes on, whether it's his fault or not, we're not keeping the clean sheet. But I do think he brings something unique to the role, which I still stand by. I think he's the best left central defender at the club, for a few reasons. He's not as error-prone as people make out. It's just unfortunate it's happened in big games. But the way that he can pass out, if you can pass out from your left foot comfortably in that position, you can go out wide and then up to the left back to Zinchenko. Whereas if you do it with a right foot, you'll go into midfield and then swaying left. The latter being a lot easier for the opposition's midfielders or strikers to intercept. So I think we get like an extra dimension in Laporte that way. And set pieces, I think he's probably our most dangerous central defender in set pieces. I know Stones has scored recently, but Laporte scored so many important and incredible goals for us with the years that he's been here. And I don't think it's a matter of if he gets back into the team. I think it's just when. And injuries haven't helped him, but he's certainly going to fight his way back into the team. I just hope it's back for when we're in the Champions League and those important games.
Yeah, there's so many key games to come, isn't there? From where we stand. We're obviously going to talk about Mönchengladbach, who seem to be on a fantastic winning record. We've been playing fantastically well in the last couple of weeks. It's going to be tough on Ake coming back, isn't it? I mean, he's still going to be out for the game tomorrow night against West Brom. I don't really know if anyone has a pin in the board of when he's going to be coming back. But Addy, what's Ake going to do to be able to get that position?
He's got to really up his game now. It's a really competitive position, left center back, left back. He's going to have to like make sure that no one gets past him. He has to like play as an offensive player as well, setting up like passes, keep chances. I think it all comes down to how he plays better and who plays better in that position. It could really vary, especially coming up with big games against like West Brom, Sheffield United, Burnley. They're all lower tier teams, but after that we play Liverpool. And like I'm worried about the team because of course with KDB out, there's a huge blow and a loss.
Yeah.
And of course the Mönchengladbach game, they've been playing amazingly, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll come on to that shortly because that's a key topic without a shadow of a doubt. I want to talk to you about the West Brom game. I'm just getting on my phone now. So basically where we stand at the moment with regards to team news, Sergio, Ake and De Bruyne are obviously definitely out. Walker's hoping to return after missing the FA Cup game against Cheltenham with a blow to the hip, obviously sustained from Jack Grealish, who also took Kevin De Bruyne out as well. So it's been quite unfortunate there. It's going to be an interesting game against Big Sam's team. Obviously, when Big Sam first came into them, they took points off Liverpool, which was a great downward spiral that we've seen from them in the last couple of weeks, which is brilliant. We just don't want to fall into the same trap, do we? Cloud, what's your make on this game? Because I see this as a potential banana skin if we're not careful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Big Sam, he's just like Roy Hodgson. They are incredibly great at building teams to be organised defensively, and he's going to try and shut us out. And I remember when he was the manager of Everton, I'm pretty sure he stopped us from getting points there as well when we played them. And he's very dangerous. And being a new manager, a lot of the players seem to respond better because there's a breath of fresh air. And they've got that momentum now as well, which makes them dangerous. And especially when you know the last time that you played us, you took a point off us. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think what we need to do is I would play traditional wingers. I would probably play Cancelo over Walker, simply because I think Walker likes to play on the overlap. But if they go with a back five, like teams often do against us, teams don't usually give you that space behind to exploit. So if you do go in for those crosses at the back, they're just going to clear it out for a corner, which isn't ideal for us. And in midfield, without De Bruyne there, I'd like to see Rodri, Gundogan on the left, and Bernardo in that KDB role, where Bernardo is so quick, he can get into those little spaces right on the edge of the box and try and make something happen. And we've seen Gundogan do that as well, quite a bit, be in the right spaces in the right times. And he's scored a lot of important goals for us lately. And he's really shown what he brings to the team.
So this is an interesting one then. So midfield, you go for Rodri, Gundogan, Bernardo, and I completely empathise with that. That's completely on board with that. At the back we're going Cancelo, Stones, Diaz. And who are you having at left back, lads? Who are you thinking? Mendy or Zinchenko?
Addy, do you want to go first?
Yeah. With Mendy at back, of course, like you said, we've scored more with him at the back. But Zinchenko is he's such a wide player. He, of course, set pieces, passing, his defensive maneuvers and everything. But on the Ukraine team, he does not play as left back. Like, I think in the last podcast we mentioned that. So that might be why he's such a good offensive player. But I take my bets on Mendy because of just a all-round player, I'd say.
What's your thoughts, Cloud?
I liked Mendy when he played in the Cheltenham game. I thought he played really well, especially as he had a run of games. However, when Cancelo plays, he actually brings out the best in Zinchenko. When we had Walker starting and Zinchenko was there, I noticed Zinny was sort of trying to do that sort of inside that Cancelo normally did. Laporte sort of went out to that left backish role in that sort of in the back three kind of thing. But Zinchenko coming inside seems to take away from his greatest strengths. And then when Cancelo came on, Zinchenko, he looks so much better when he doesn't have to go inside. When he sticks out wide, which would be the purpose I see in this match, I think he's a phenomenal player. Obviously, on the last podcast, I mentioned how important Mendy was.
Yeah.
However, since then, Zinchenko's shown, it's like, hey, I'm here to fight for my place in the team. And he really has. And the time that he's had off, he always trains so hard. And you can tell it really hits him. He loves being here. And since he's come back, he's really come back with a fighting spirit. And when someone puts that kind of effort on the pitch and off the pitch, that's what I want to see. I think Mendy's been very distracted lately. Might be unfair for me to judge his personal life, but Zinchenko seems focused, and for a match like this, I think that's what we need.
I completely agree. I think he put Mendy in to give him a run out with a view of Zinchenko's, because I had a bet with one of our other admins a few months ago that Zinchenko wouldn't start more than 15 games for City this season. And I was basing that on Cancelo playing at left back, and I was basing that on Mendy being his number two. And with Cancelo's flexibility to play on the right side, that's kind of thrown that spanner in the works. Yeah. And at the minute, I think Pep trusts Zinchenko more. And I kind of use the analogy of, somebody keeps throwing Zinchenko away from the first team, and he just keeps fighting to come back, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps coming back for more. And I love that attitude. I think that says an awful lot about him as a person and a character. And do you know what? Yeah, I love it. You don't hear anything about Zinchenko outside of football either, which for me says an awful lot. Gwen said he likes to take a lot of pictures with his missus, but if you'd seen her, you could kind of understand why. Fair play to the lad. Right, so we've gone for Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo in midfield. Who are we having as a front three then? This is going to be an interesting one. And we want to talk about the false nine and what it brings to our game potentially in this game tomorrow night. Who wants to go first on this?
Cloud. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I suppose I'll start. I don't think this front three will happen, but I would like to see Foden on the left, Ferran Torres on the right, and Jesus playing striker.
Yeah.
Varane seems to have been played everywhere, but when he plays on the wings, we haven't seen much of it, but his performances are brilliant. I think Cheltenham was the first time I've seen a performance from Varane that I wasn't overly impressed with him, and he still scored. And, that was in a position that he's not used to. I think him on the right as a traditional right winger, which he was before he joined us. Foden on the left, where he's been nothing short of brilliant. And Jesus up front would be great. The false nine does have a purpose, but within our team, I feel that against low blocks like West Brom will be, I don't think the false nine is that great because it helps overload the midfield. But against these teams, teams like West Brom, they'll give you the midfield. They're going to sit back. They're not going to chase you for the ball. You come into them, and then they're going to counter-attack you. So having possession, having priority in that midfield is nothing to them. That's part of their game plan. In that sense, I would rather have a striker who's got an eye for goal. And ideally, that would be Aguero. But we don't have that. So it's an opportunity for Jesus to come in and make the most of it before Aguero's back. His performances haven't been up to the standard we'd expect, but the opportunity's there. And like Zinchenko, like a lot of the other, like Cancelo, even when he was fighting Walker for places, he's got to go in and give a performance to fight for his place.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Jesus, I don't know if you've been on social media much, but Jesus took a bit of a beating this weekend after the Cheltenham game, but he still managed to finish the goal. I think there's a massive misconception about Jesus being an out-and-out striker. There's a lot of argument to say he's more of a left winger than anything. I was under the impression he came in to be a striker, and I don't think his scoring record's that bad. Is it 150 games, 172 goals, or something like that? Which I don't think it's too bad at all. But
no.
My major problem is he is never going to be a Sergio striker, and that's one thing I've learned over the last couple of weeks. And that's not his fault. That just means we just need to go out and buy that out-and-out striker and make sure we are guaranteeing those goals for when Sergio will be injured again in the future if he does continue and stay on. Addy, what's your thoughts on the front three?
Of course, I'd always like Foden on the left because he makes those set pieces, those chances available to us. In the center forward, I'd like Bernardo Silva because, of course, that false nine position, he gets all over the place. He can score, he can track back, but the problem is the right wing. I'd like Ferran Torres on there, but I think it's just best if we could invest in another player because Ferran can also play center. Yeah.
I like what you're both saying about Torres. I am really excited when I see Torres playing. There's something extremely positive about the way he plays. He can score. He can run at people. He's quick. What's not to love? He's kind of like a mini Sane in that respect, where he's not there, he's not at that level yet, but I can see him getting there, and I can see him playing as a striker in the years to come. Like when Henry was a winger and he kind of moved as a centre forward type position. Torres knows where the net is, and he always seems to get in really good positions. And I don't really necessarily think you can teach that at that age. I think if he's got that natural goal scoring ability, stick him up front. What's the worst that could happen? So yeah, I can't disagree with you. Foden's got to start. Foden, blimey, I don't know if did you remember that Messi-esque run he did, and he beat about 7 players and went back for more and had a shot and unfortunately didn't go in. But that would have been an absolute worldie if that would have gone in. But Foden's got to score. Got to start. I get a feeling. How's Sterling at the minute? Is Sterling fit?
He's been on the bench a couple of times. I've seen in the last couple of games. I don't think he's ever actually went on for anyone.
Right. Well,
I think that just shows Pep's confidence in everyone else.
The only reason I say that is this is a bit of a selfish point of view. In my fantasy football team, I've taken KDB out and put Sterling in, and I'm sticking him as captain because I think Sterling's going to start tomorrow night, and I think he's going to score. He is due a couple of goals, and he's due a good game at some point. I'm relying on my fantasy football team for it to come out. And yeah, I agree. I think Jesus has got to start as well. So I'm going to go for Foden, Sterling, and Jesus. Just with the mindset of, I'm questioning myself now because I'm fully expecting West Brom to stick 9-10 players behind the ball. I think we all have to accept that, don't we? We got Bernardo, Rodri, and Gundogan. So Gundogan and Bernardo are going to be playing the advanced position there. Is Gundogan and Rodri really needed tomorrow night? Have they got any capability of actually threatening us on our goal? Or is it not more for us to take them down, and could we potentially put a more of an attacking-minded player in instead of Rodri?
I think they're going to create a lot of chances because, of course, West Brom's probably going to keep like 5 players at the back, and we're going to need to have to create chances and gaps. And with them on the field, it's better that with the passing, it's just incredibly accurate, and I think it'll be the best if we keep them in, because then our forwards, all they have to do is finish the ball into the net. That's just about it.
I'm looking at West Brom in the table. They're 19th in the table, and that means nothing as far as I'm concerned. In the last 5 games, they've lost 3, won 1, and drawn 1. Obviously, the drawn one was against Liverpool, well in there. No, did they beat Liverpool? No, it was draw, wasn't it? They drew.
Yeah,
they drew.
They held them.
That's right. And they've conceded. They've got a goal difference of minus 28. They've conceded 43 goals and scored 15. I was going to swear then, I'm not going to swear. I would be seriously annoyed if we conceded tomorrow night. Yeah. I'm just hoping we've got enough in our tanks to be able to batter down that door. That's my biggest concern tomorrow. Have you got a score prediction, both of you?
I have to say at least 3-0. If we can't reach that against a relegation-bound team, then it's not up to the standards.
So you're going for 3-0, and Carl, is that 2-0?
Yeah, 2-0.
Who's your goal scorers?
I mean, it depends who starts. I mean, although I want Ferran to start, I really don't think he will. I think Sterling's going to start. Goal scorers, I think Jesus is going to get one. And then, strangely, I feel like Cancelo is going to get one. But I have no idea who's going to score. It's going to be a messy game. It's going to be a lot of chances.
I have Jesus, Sterling, and anyone else, I guess.
Hey, as long as Sterling gets man of the match, I'm happy with that. I get the feeling we're going to score from a set piece tomorrow. I think we're going to really struggle to break them down, and I think we're going to have to get a corner or something where we see a Diaz or a Stones get another one. I wouldn't bet too much against that.
Hopefully Laporte.
Hopefully Laporte, like a salmon, yeah. Well, you never know, do you? Let's move on to our defensive record, which has been pretty solid. I'm trying not to think about the Cheltenham game, but it's kind of a given that, isn't it, with the second team out against Cheltenham. Our defensive record's been phenomenal. I still can't get the head round, Cloud, to use your phrase, this bromance that Stones and Diaz have developed. I don't know if you've seen their interview recently on City's
I did.
website.
I watched it about an hour ago.
Brilliant, that, isn't it? Oh, you could just tell straight away they've never met each other or something, and then all of a sudden they're playing. They just get each other. It's just phenomenal. Where can they take this? Because I keep seeing records about a big comparison between Diaz and Virgil van Dijk, and we should never really judge other people, but I'm going to today because at 23 games Van Dijk had 13 wins and Diaz 16 wins. Goals conceded, Van Dijk 24, goals conceded, Diaz 9. Clean sheets, Virgil 10, clean sheets, Diaz 15. Those are both 23 games at this point of the season for Liverpool and obviously for City. Listen, lads, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but he looks like an absolute belter of a signing, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. I think I'm going to anger a lot of people by saying this. Virgil van Dijk is overrated. He had one good season. And
that is a bold statement.
Yeah. I mean, you could see injuries, and even if you count it, he is I think Liverpool has suffered without him, of course, but that's because they rely on him so much. And if he can't show that, which he hasn't in the past few seasons, I guess, the past season, he has not shown, especially with the injury. Liverpool has dropped down points and lost to United yesterday as well, mainly because they don't have any defensive backups.
It's an interesting one, isn't it?
I might anger people, a lot of City fans saying this, but I think Virgil van Dijk is better than any centre back we have at City. I mean, the thing is, he's tall, he's strong, he's commanding, he's a leader, he's got great passes, long balls, set pieces. He scored so many important ones for them. He holds them great when they play that offside trap. And although Diaz's stats are phenomenal, I think Diaz is playing alongside better players. So he's got Stones next to him, who's in fantastic form.
Yeah.
He's in Cancelo, who's got fantastic form. Let's not talk too much about left back, but in front of him, he's got the double pivot. You know, he's got Gundogan, Rodri, Fernandinho, Ederson in goal. Whereas you look at a lot of Liverpool's players, and they were sensational. You know, that back line, they were sensational. But after so long, you get to see the cracks in the team. Gomez wasn't all he was cracked up to be. Trent Alexander-Arnold, fantastic right back. But defensively, I don't think any of us here would say he's a world beater defensively. He is, in my eyes, a midfielder playing right back. And he's fantastic at what he does. But I think we're better as a unit. But I'm not going to undermine what Virgil van Dijk has done. He's an absolutely phenomenal player.
It's a funny one, isn't it? I was deeply disappointed when Virgil van Dijk didn't sign for City. I wouldn't say I followed him from Celtic to Southampton, but I certainly knew him as a player just purely because of the rumour mill that was doing the rounds, and we were looking for somebody to replace Company, and he would have been perfect. I think Van Dijk's one of the best defenders in Europe, and I think him being out for us is fantastic for City this season. I think that's the only.
Yeah.
You know,
the only thing standing in our way is Manchester United.
What's your thoughts on the Man United threat then? Are you thinking they're going to be there long term, or do you think they're going to die away?
I mean, they have pretty easy draws in the Premier League: United, Arsenal, Southampton, Everton. And unless they get upset in their next few games, the only time we could really take over in points, because based on our schedule, is Chelsea, like on the 20th of February, or against when we play United ourselves on the 6th of March.
United worry me. United really worry me. They seem to be getting together. The chemistry and Pogba's playing well. Pogba's playing all right for them at the minute, which for me, he had a good goal obviously, but is it? I've asked a couple of my United mates, is it just the one goal? Is that it? And he goes, no, actually, he seems to be pulling in the same direction as the other players, which is obviously a negative for us. Card, what's your thoughts on the threat from United?
There is definitely a threat there. I would still be more worried about Liverpool. The thing is with United, the way they're playing, the way they're set up, Pogba's being sort of just shoved into that team. And although he has played well so far, it's happened a lot. We've seen this with Ollie, where he's on the brink of getting sacked, and then they have an amazing run of games, and then they go a bit poor, and then they have an amazing run of games. Pogba is playing well, but Pogba's the sort of player who plays well when the team's playing well. But when the team are playing bad, he hasn't got that influence to sort of bring them back out. And all it's going to take is for Mino Raiola to have a couple of bottles of wine at night, make a statement, and the world will be restored. But I'm not too worried about United yet.
Yeah, I think that instability is what will bring us on top. Of course.
You see that the whole Raiola thing really worries me because Haaland's his agent as well. Riola's managing Haaland, and at the moment I think City fell out with Raiola, and I can't remember what the scenario was, but I don't believe we have any players under the stewardship of Raiola and his agency at the City. So for me, that makes me think we're not going to get Haaland because of everything that comes with that whole circus that he brings with him, and we don't need that, do they? Saying that, the only positive thing is Haaland is works well with his dad, Alfie, and his Alfie's obviously got his head screwed on and so forth. So you think he wouldn't be in the same sort of camp as Pogba. It's still worrying though, isn't it, that a player could have such a negative tendency just because of from somebody who's there to help and support them. It does my head in a little bit, actually.
Yeah, I think if Haaland comes to City, it'll be a huge, it'll be amazing for City, and it'll be like bad for United because they're targeting him as well, at least from the rumors on OneFootball. But yeah.
Right, let's move on from dream about new strikers. Let's move on to Fernandinho and Sergio and their contract situations. Question for both of you. Would you give them both a new contract? Dead simple question. Would you give them both a new contract if they wanted one now?
Yes and no.
Yes to Fernandinho, no to Aguero.
Yeah.
Yep. Addy?
Mm-hmm. I give yes Fernandinho hard down. He's very, very key to City. Aguero, I'm still split between that because, of course, he's an amazing City striker. He's probably etched his name in City's history already. If we can sign a younger striker and there's an option like Haaland, then I don't think Pep will think twice about signing him. He'll probably just release him.
There's a worry there, isn't there? There's a worry about his fitness and how much... Because there was rumours before he got injured about him being unhappy about potentially taking a half his pay cut to stay at City. But now this kind of cements that actually, Sergio, if you're going to have to stay, mate, you can't earn whatever you're earning at the minute. You've got to take a massive reduction because we're not playing you as much. And he's a fantastic player, and it disappoints me that he could potentially leave without the stadium and the fans saying goodbye to him, like we did for David Silva, which is, again, really disappointing.
Yeah, I don't want him to leave. After everything he's done for City, I don't want it. It's just, it'll be bad because, for everything.
See, it's funny because both you said about Fernandinho. It's an absolute no-brainer giving him a new contract. Everything he does, and I don't know if you two, Addy, you're probably not old enough. Cloud, you might be when Patrick Vieira signed for us for a season, and he just, when we're winning 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever it might be to shore up the midfield, we just bring Patrick on and the game would just fizzle out and we'd end up getting the win. And he just seems like that type of player that can bring that stability into a winning team. And he's a club captain as well, let's not forget.
Well, both of them, what they do on the pitch, it's a no-brainer. If they can play, I'd give them both a contract. But you see in the tabloids where they're saying City haven't begun contract talks with Aguero. There's no contract talks with Aguero. Well, he hasn't played. What sort of business, what sort of institution would offer a contract to a player who's had massive injuries? We don't even know how he's going to play when he comes back. And we need to take that into account. And that's how clubs like Barcelona and the crisis they're in now, I think they extended Gerard Piqué. And if I'm not mistaken, they've extended him to 2025. He's struggling to play now. He's on a huge amount of money. I think if he's not on more than Aguero, he's on similar amounts.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
We're a very well-run club. If he gets his fitness together, absolutely. But the last thing I want to see is someone like Aguero getting turned on, which we did see David Silva, when he had a bit of bad form, there was a lot of criticism about him on social media, and I pray you never saw it. And then obviously Yaya Toure, a lot of people criticised him in his later years, especially with the whole birthday cake thing and stuff like that. It's very hard when you see criticism about legends that you've just come to love at your club.
Yeah.
So I would rather him go out on a high than stay and have people saying these things about him, week in, week out.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. I don't think I could have said that. Don't think I could have said that any better. Let's move on, because coming up very soon. So fixtures-wise, we've got West Brom, then Sheffield, then Burnley, then Liverpool, Swansea, Tottenham, Arsenal. I want to talk a little bit in 7 games' time. We've got Mönchengladbach away. They seem to be hitting on a bit of a rich vein of form at the moment. They're taking points off teams where normally they wouldn't necessarily do that. Addy, what's your thoughts on that game? And obviously we've got some massive games before that. We've got Liverpool, Spurs and Arsenal, to name just 3.
I'm just praying for that game that we have our top players back in form. Otherwise, it'll be tough, definitely, because we're playing away. And Mönchengladbach, as you said, are amazing, but they have their flaws as well. And if we have our players in top form, then it's a no doubt going to be a win if we can manage to get that.
Just to give everyone an idea about what I'm talking about. So at the moment, in January, they've played 4 games. Do apologise now. So they beat Dortmund 4-2 last Friday, just gone. Before that, they beat Werder 1-0. Before that, Stuttgart, they drew 2-2. Before that, they beat Munich 3-2. Armenia won 1-0, and then they beat Elsenberg 5-0 before that, and that was in the cup. And it's one of them where actually they are making. There's no easy game in the Champions League at this stage, and we have certainly got to be at the races for that, haven't we? There's no question about that. Cloud, I think what Addy's just said hits the nail on the head. We need all our full players back, but how do you think we're going to fare? Do you think Pep's going to have that in mind, or do you think he's going to play as he should do, one game after the other? Concentrate on Swansea, right. Concentrate on Liverpool, right. Concentrate on Spurs, etc.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I really wish that we could actually go to the stadium, because regardless of what I could get tickets for, I would go into that stadium and I would sing my heart out with all the other 2,000 Mancunians, singing songs for Diaz and just get him in that mood to fight. I mean, that month, it looks dreadful. I can't wait for it. I really can't. Those sort of games, one after another, that's what really lights the fire, you know?
You're spot on. Oh, this is great. I mean, just to reiterate what you said there, our February looks like this. Right. Burnley, Liverpool, Swansea, Tottenham, Arsenal, Gladbach, West Ham, and then on the first weekend in January, February, March, it's Derby Day. We've got United, so we've got
crush them all.
We've got some. Do you know what? If we came away with wins across the board, there, I'd be a happy bunny. You've got to be. You'll see the odds at the bookmakers tumbling for us as well, wouldn't you? But that Liverpool game's not going to be easy. Is this the year we're going to take points at Anfield? We're going to take 3 points at Anfield, though. That's my biggest question, lads.
Yeah, I think those 2 games, City and Tottenham, for the points table, I think that's what those are the games that are going to threaten us the most, because of course they have amazing players, and if we take losses there, then it'll definitely affect how if we win or not. Which is why I think City needs to get both wins there, and if we beat United, then and we keep having a good record for the rest of the Premier League season, a win is obviously guaranteed then.
Oh, it's gonna get very tight into the next couple of weeks. So how do KDB could be out for 5 or 6 weeks? Pep's always well known for over-egging injuries, but let's just say he's out for the next month or so. How do you think, this is the final topic of the night, lads, before we shoot off, but how do you think we're gonna? Do you think we're going to come together as a team? Because let's not forget we won the league a couple of years ago with KDB not in the squad whatsoever through injury. Cloud, what's your thoughts on KDB and what we're going to do differently to make sure we are not missing him as much as what we as fans think we will?
I think a lot of people read too much into it. Similar to like the Anfield curse, people look at statistics for things like that are totally irrelevant. And that's the biggest sign of fear I've ever seen. What I will say about this team and the resilience, forget about, Cheltenham. We were, I think, 10 points behind Liverpool, and they came to the Etihad, probably the most unformed they've ever been. And we beat them 2-1 without KDB. And Bernardo ran more than any other player in a league game that year at that time. So I've already seen it happen once, and it's not hard for me to believe that we can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
If we get Bernardo on that rich vein of form that he can do, and he seems to really be hitting the high notes at the moment. If we get him up to that level, then I'm not worried. I think he can run the show for us. Him and Foden, with a bit of magic from Sterling down the line as well. I'm quietly confident, but it's going to be an interesting month, isn't it, lads? Right. Anything else to add before we shoot off?
Just about the Borussia Mönchengladbach game. I forgot. I've actually wrote some notes down when I looked at their play about Dortmund. Am I okay just to read them off?
Yeah, please, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, I'm just going to read what I wrote just because it's been a while and took me a while to put it up. But what I noticed was Bayern went with a typical 4-2-3-1 system. But when they actually played, they started with a 4-1-4-1 when they were under pressure. They used their normal man marking system, and Borussia Mönchengladbach applied a zonal marking system. And during build-up play, Bayern tried a 2-4-1-3 from the back, and had Alphonso Davies playing upfield closer to Lewandowski, and that completely isolated the Bayern back line. And it just led to horizontal passes between Sule Alaba and Kimmich and Goretzka rather than progressive passes. And when you look at the stats, they had the most passes for the Bayern players, unsurprisingly. Borussia, what they did here, and this is where I think the real game plan is for us, they would switch Hoffmann from left wing to left mid and adapt from a 4-3-3 formation to a 4-2-2. And that cut down the passing lanes from Bayern trying to play out until they started exploiting the space on the left wing left by Hoffmann. Zakaria was a real danger man, and he did something that Nagelsmann has done for Red Bull Leipzig quite a lot, which they have Haidara play as a wide-playing box-to-box midfielder, and they use him in that sense to drag players out of position. And when they do that, they completely dominated Alphonso Davies by doing that. And this led to the vertical pass option between the centre-back and the right-back for Borussia. And that's how they completely tore apart Bayern. And I reckon we could see a lot of that. So in my eyes, the one to look out for, and he was, from what I saw, the man of the match of that game, is Hoffmann. I think he's the real danger man we've got to look out for, and we need to exploit the space that he leaves.
So we really need to be winning this game in midfield, don't we? So this is potentially the false nine scenario coming out to play. Can you see Pep overthinking this game? We're not going to see another Leon, are we? Please.
Like I said last time, Pep might overthink it, and that's what Mönchengladbach might exploit. But overall, I think in the last few games we've seen that he is playing simpler now. But putting it out, then yeah, I think also Gladbach has got like a huge ego boost, and like I said, that ego needs to be checked. And I have complete confidence in City that they'll be giving that check to Gladbach.
That confidence that needs to be checked. I absolutely love that. Cloud, that's a fantastic analogy, pal. It'll be very interesting to see the formation come through, and make a note of that and put it out onto the Discord group. Big shout out to Discord, Man City Discord, which we'll put a link to in the show notes, where you can find you two talking and about 3,000 other people as well. Close approaching, which is brilliant news. If no one's seen Discord, download the app, and I'll put a link into the Man City chat so you can come and join us and have a good chat to us. And let's leave it there, lads. I love you and leave you. Thank you as always, and we'll speak to you very soon.
See you later. Thanks for having us.
No worries, Blues. Catch you later. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you for having us, sir.